I have a sister who used to be a Christian and now is an atheist, and I have a father who's an atheist, and I have a mom who she's raised Catholic all her life, and she's now living in my house. And we're struggling because she's dying, and she won't come to church with us. She's insisting that we bring her a priest, but we can't find a priest that she will approve of because it doesn't meet her standard. And she won't accept my husband, who's an ordained pastor, and she wants to take communion, but she won't accept it from us. We can't win, and we can't seem to help explain to her how.
What ask this, Eileen?
We can't.
Okay, now let me just interrupt it for a second. It's hard to respond to personal situations like this in a public setting when you know nothing about any of the people involved. You don't know anything about the church. You don't know anything about really don't know almost anything about their theology. It's scary to assume things because you can assume the wrong things and then give a completely irrelevant answer once they then clarify later on. So it's tough. It's tough dealing with the personal questions like this. But I would like to think that in light of what has happened in the past, in light of the Reformation, in light of the New Testament, that some of the response here would be, well, what's vitally important here is she seems to believe in this concept of a priest. And if you know what Roman Catholicism teaches about the priesthood, then we're talking about a sacerdotal priest. We're talking about a priest with special powers of forgiveness and special sacramental powers that are completely unbiblical. There is not a shred of evidence that the apostles ever taught anybody to ordain someone, call them an alter Christus, another Christ, and imbue them with sacramental powers of transubstantiation or anything else. That is thoroughly and completely unbiblical. And so the issue is to communicate what the gospel is. And the gospel, for a Roman Catholic, is what brings them peace with God. She doesn't have peace with God. She is looking to do something. She is looking to receive something to get peace. Because Roman Catholicism, lacking a finished work of Christ, because in the Eucharistic sacrifice, you have the representation in an unbloody manner of the sacrifice of Christ in a propitiatory fashion. So it's not finished for the individual. Since you do not have the imputed righteousness of Christ, that's specifically denied, then you're looking to the sacrament to provide you with some semblance of peace as you face death. And so the Christian response here is to present the gospel, because you have someone who clearly has been given a false gospel. They are looking to something outside of the finished work of Christ. Now, the problem that we're going to hear is that those who promulgate and have bought into what I call the mere Christianity position. And it's not specifically C.S. Lewis. It is the idea that Christianity can be boiled down to believing in God and believing in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, and that death, burial, and resurrection has something to do with salvation, but then you have to draw a very strong line and say, but we can't say what. In other words, people who say that the gospel and how you are justified before God is not a definitional doctrine of the Christian faith. Well, because there's so much disagreement. So you boil it down to God, maybe Trinity, death, burial, resurrection of Jesus, and then draw the line. You cut off the rest of the apostolic message, which included the gospel itself, and say, this is what we need to have. This is sufficient. This is enough. And we'll let God sort it all out later. There are a lot of people who take this position, and it's very popular today. It allows you to be ecumenical. It allows you to say, well, I don't agree with what Rome is saying, but, we're all still on the same side and all this type of stuff. Okay, so the difference in the response that I would give and the response that will be given is based upon that fundamental distinction. And I think it's a fundamental distinction that the apostles themselves plainly made. So let's listen in.
I mean, it's like, Jesus, take the wheel, because we don't even know what to do here.
Why not ask her this? Why do you think Jesus came, Mom? What would she say?
She said, well, he came to take away my sin.
Okay, and in the Catholic Mass, when they do the Eucharist, they believe they're sacrificing Jesus again.
Correct. And they're...
Okay, no, that's not, no. It's best to be accurate here. They are representing in an unbloody fashion a propitiatory sacrifice through making Christ present upon the altar through the miracle of transubstantiation, but they would never say we are sacrificing Jesus again. That sets you up for easy refutation from the Roman Catholic side. Really easy refutation from the Roman Catholic side. That's not accurate. What is being said is thoroughly unbiblical, but you need to define it correctly to demonstrate that it's unbiblical. So don't make that mistake, because that sets you up for the solid Roman Catholic apologists who will make you look silly if you say things like that.
Take the Eucharist. Look, I was brought up in the Catholic Church, okay?
Yes.
So
they are consuming his body and drinking his blood.
Okay, that's not something I'm going to argue over. There's no reason to argue about it.
Except that's what her faith is directed to. That's the falsehood that is causing her to look to a false priest and a false system for a false assurance. So I'm not going to argue about whether Christ's sacrifice is once for all or whether it is a representation that does not perfect. Here's where, if you don't have a meaningfully robust doctrine of the atonement, causes real problems. Real problems. Real world problems. Not just theoretical ones or theological ones. Real world problems.
But if she understands that Jesus came to save her, and if she puts her trust in him, she confesses with her mouth that Jesus is Lord and believes in her heart that Jesus has been risen from the dead, she's saved.
Yes.
Okay, so what you have is the assertion that the Judaizers were not really anathema. Right? Because the Judaizers believed all that. There is no evidence in the book of Galatians that the Judaizers were heretical, that they denied the existence of God, they denied the deity of Christ, they denied the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. No, they believed all those things. What did Paul describe them as? The Greek term is pseudadelphoi, false brothers. And he said they were anathema.